So we live between two breaths. The first breath and the last one is a parenthesis. That's your life. And your life is time. And time is the most valuable thing you have because you don't know when you're going to die. In Greek, the soul is called nepma. Nepma is like the lungs. In Latin, it became inspire, aspire. So when you say I'm inspiring people to do something, I'm actually giving from my breath and my time to the others. When people ask me what do I usually say I'm a multidisciplinary artist and a polymath because I'm very interested and versed in many different subjects. So I'm thinking about subjects like memory, time, and space, not only from the part of the physical, but also the metaphysical and emotional. I remember I had to do a lot of research about geoscience because the most that I know is like I have been collecting minerals. My house is full of like all kinds of crystals, and I always love this idea of like what crystallizes. So I was thinking very much about like the lines that there are underneath Mother Earth, and they are supporting us. So I thought, these people, they just go and spend a lot of time trying to look at Earth from different perspectives. They're thinking about data, they're measuring things, but how can I do this poetically? And I was like, oh, I wonder if there are any crazy geologist that has written any poetry. And I found poetry from the 19th century. So I thought, oh, this is going to be cool. At that time that we started doing this project, I started traveling back to Colombia. And when I grew up in Colombia in the 70s, it was a very violent country. We couldn't really go to the mountain. So around 2010, I started just traveling there and being like, I can't believe that this is my country. I always film when I go out because I use my database of images is almost like a palette of colors. So I'm always filming, and then I have databases of like, oh, I need water, so I have it here. Oh, I need rain, or I need this. I don't want people to notice what is what. I don't want it to be obvious. So I work many hours, not making it, but actually observing. And then I go, you know what? Over here we can just tweak, and sometimes I'm tweaking like nobody will see it. I'm seeing it. So I'm very meticulous about how these things actually work together. I wanted the pace to be so slow, and for that I need time. And I need to stretch it, but in a way that you don't know where I'm weaving it and putting it together. And so it depends. You come today, you see this. Tomorrow you might see the same thing, or you go like, no. So there's always this discovery. In the beginning, I was like, I'm not trying to hypnotize people. And then I would go like, well, yes, I am. Here I am. I'm doing all these things. And the person at that moment in time is feeling compelled to get closer to the piece. He or her is going to have a conversation and a dialogue with something that is going to emote from them in relationship to my piece. I want people to actually feel it and say, there's something about this piece that I like, I don't know what, and that is good for me because they relate to it in a way that I caught their eye. But it's their journey, yes.
It's just great that so many people could join us today to celebrate Monica and her newest installation in Austin. So Monica and I started working on this commission a really long time ago, 2010, if you can believe it. And way back in the early stages of this project, she decided to name this piece An Interval of Time. Now, I don't think that either of us could have imagined back then that the interval was going to take a decade for this piece to be realized, but it has finally arrived and it is ready to be viewed, and it's really quite beautiful. So I hope you'll have a chance to see it.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited about closing this cycle. It's been, as Andres said, 10 years. And there's a lot of stuff that has happened in my life, in the life of many people in 10 years, especially the last year. This 2020 is really a year that is going to be remembered. For me, it's very important because I'm closing a very important cycle of my life and beginning a new one. And this is how I'm starting the slideshow. I want to serve. And for me, service is very important. I'm an artist. And the most important thing for me to serve as an artist is to be coherent, not only with what I create, but how I relate to that creation and how I relate to the people. Since I was very little, I always was questioning, who am I? What am I doing here? What is the purpose of my life? So I spent a lot of part of my life trying to go very deep into these questions. Have a very curious mind, very perceptive. I did not go to art school. I used to be very uh, I don't know, like a little bit of shame about it, but now I know it's the biggest asset I have, because he has given me the opportunity to see things from a very different perspective, something that I really apply in my work. I'm completely empirical. I think that it's very important for me to embody every experience, and that's what I want to bring into my artwork. I want to bring this experience to the audience. I want to provide a platform to the audience so they can create a sense of presence and they relate back to themselves. Because I believe if we really establish relationship to who we are, we can also establish a different relationship to the environment, to small communities, and to the rest of the world. So I always think about time and place and space and memory, because this is the way I relate emotionally to any given moment of my life. Another question that I ask all the time with my work is like, how does that something make me feel? And that's what I want to bring to my work always when I put it out there. I want the individual that comes across my work to actually establish a connection of some sort through the layers of the work, whether it's a color, a shape, or some sort of text that they can see. I want to be able to offer this surface so they can project their own shadows or light into the work. I consider time to be very cyclical. Um, Only the Judeo-Christian tradition brought to us the idea of that linear narrative where we're like waiting for somebody to come back again or something to end. But I went back to the ancestors and also the different kind of civilizations like in China or in India or in Japan, where we believe that the time is cyclical. So for me, I use that as a very basis of the work. Another part that's very important is the space as a state of being. And around 2000, I did a work that it was called Symphysis, because I went to Central Park and I found out that the penguins over there, they're being given the food at a different time zone, like the South Hemisphere. And so I was a little bit heartbroken because I thought, well, what if we tell them they're not in Central Park? And that made me think a lot about awareness. How much awareness does the fish have? How much awareness does the earth have? How much awareness do we have? So I'm very concerned about that sort of consciousness. We as the humans, we have the higher amount of consciousness. So we have to really create a very good relationship with the rest of the consciousness of the universe. And the basic question with this piece was, are we in a fish tank? Are we really inside of this construction? Is our mind a construction? What is real or what is not? So that's really a very basic question all along my work. After I did this work, this work, looking at the slides. Sometimes I'm going to be with the slides, sometimes I won't. So I projected in these panels, there were glass panels with mirror, and I projected images of the aquarium, and I again centered the audience at the center of the space, because I wanted the audience to be able to see themselves and to question what is real and what is not. Because again, the consciousness is only there until it's brought to you, it is projected. In 1998, for 2 years, I recorded the view from my window at the Brooklyn Bridge. I was living in Dumbo, and I had the Brooklyn Bridge and I had the Twin Towers. And I decided to record every day, all the time, from the same point of view. What happened with this piece was very interesting, because the view will change, not because of the seasons, but the way I related to emotionally to the landscape. So that made me think a lot of how important emotions are, because depending on the condition that we have is how we relate to the landscape or the people. Then I did a piece, I think it was 2009, just a little bit before I started this commission, and it was about destiny. I was questioning whether destiny is something that is given to me, or is something that I create, or is it a combination of the two? So I projected this idea of making skylines of cities, and I used the text of Italo Calvino, Invisible Cities, to to create these cities that they will be animated on and off. And here I'm just really calling into question, how do we construct our lives based on our belief systems? Because I think that the idea of meaning and truth and the idea of God is something that is not only my question, but it's a question that is surrounding all of us every day. So this one, it took 3 years for me to make because he was threading the text throughout the skylines of the cities and then trying to look for the right surface so I could project. I ended up doing with glass. There are two pieces of glass and a mirror, and it's a very magical piece. I really love this piece because it's like it's the emergence of something um, completely new um, in my way of creating. This is also a very important piece because it talks about language. I am very concerned about language, the way we communicate, the way we encode the information and the way we relate to it. It differs very much depending on the amount of knowledge that we have, the amount of curiosity that we have, and the kind of the attention we give to the language. I speak many, many languages because when I was little, I thought that I needed to learn all of them. So I went and I asked my mom, can I learn English? Can I learn French? Can I learn Italian? Can I learn blah, 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 blah. So I'm very capable of speaking languages. But then after like the fifth or sixth, I thought, that's not really what I have to learn. I have to understand what am I going to do with the language. So after I did that project, I started thinking, what does it mean to be born in Colombia? Why, if I was born in Colombia, why don't I live there? Because I left Colombia when I was 18. And I went back to Colombia in 2011. And when I was little, I couldn't go to the mountains because there was a lot of violence. So I started going to these beautiful mountains called La Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, where we have like this four group of people, indigenous people, that they weave bags and they have this language that it is woven. And again, because I was very interested in the language, I did this project that is a very beautiful animation that envelops the viewer in this simulation of what it is to be weaving. When I was doing the research of this project, I discovered that the loom is the mother of the computers. And that for me was incredible because right now we're speaking in the same binary language that it was from the very beginning, our ancestors have been communicating. 2015, I'm invited by the Vatican to create a piece for the Biennale. I was a little bit shocked because I did not even know they had a pavilion. So I thought it was a little bit of a joke, but then I went along with the joke and then it ended up being like a real thing. And they gave me a subject matter. It was regarding the Gospel of John, that part where it says at the beginning there was the Word and the Word was God and so on, so on, so on. So what I was very caught at the very beginning with it because I learned that the text was originally written in Greek, and the translation of the word logos, which is reason, was translated in most of the languages as word or verb. So I wanted to give another perspective to the idea of what it is to be in touch with something sublime. So I chose to do it through form and color. So I decided to use the images from Malevich because in the suprematism manifesto, he talks about how important it is to be connected to the emotions. So I created this piece. It's an interactive piece. Well, not really interactive, but you can go around and you have many layers. And in the layers, you have the text that is kind of not illegible. And you have also sound that it cannot be heard. My scope with this piece was to really say, do we really need text to talk about God? Can we just go to nature and be connected to that idea of the sublime? Is the landscape or a rock giving me that kind of meaning? So this was something that opened up like another realm in my relationship to my work. The year later, I started experimenting with the leftovers of things that they were in my studio. Also, my personal life was changing. My marriage collapsed after 20 years, and I found myself like retracing the pieces of my life. So I remember going back to my studio one day after I came from Venice, and I seeing all these pieces and we're trying to arrange them in order. And I thought this was the most beautiful piece because it was just made out of the leftovers or the residues. So I decided to rescue that. And I went on forward since 2015. That's what I've been doing with my work. I've been rescuing stuff from before and bringing it forward. And so I made this piece, Tessera, that is the beginning of the piece that I created for a commission I had for the Metropolitan Arts and Design subway station in New York. And I'm very happy to have that commission there because I left New York after 26 years, but my work stays forever in a subway station. It's a beautiful piece. This piece over here, it's in 2018. I decided to integrate all my disciplines. I decided that I was having a hard time categorizing myself in different ways. So I decided to use textile, the drawing on the wall, creating kimonos, putting animations, just playing a lot. The element of play is very important in my work because I, as a person, think that if we're not living a life full of joy, then what's the purpose? Here's some images from the subway. What I do with the commissions is that I really try to understand where they're going to be located. And so I want to really absorb the needs of the community, but also of the location. And here there was, this is in Brooklyn, very close to a place called Sunset Park, I think. Yeah, and you have this building, it's called the Bush Terminal. It's really beautiful, a brutalist building. So I have that embedded in the mosaics of the commission. This is another way here I wanted to show you a little bit what my process is. I always start with a lot of images, a lot. I do collage. I like to go back to the physical. Although a lot of the stuff that I do is animated, I still think that the materiality is important because materiality for me refers to that part of myself that is the human part. I'm in flesh, so I need to always remember that I have to embody everything. If I don't embody my emotions, if I don't embody my ideas, if I don't embody my life as it is right now, then I lose connectivity to what is happening. So this is another piece I did last year. I think there are 30 projections that are mapped all around this paper wall. This was a temporary commission that I did last year for MasterCard, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of technology. It was up and down in 2 days, and these pieces of wall, they just fold and they disappear. So I like the ephemeral quality of it. It was something very, very beautiful. This is the last piece that I did. I think I'm out of time. Let me just check because I'm getting a lot of messages. Am I out of time? Am I good?
You're good. You
okay,
still
I'm
have
sorry.
a few
Yeah, I'm
minutes.
just getting a lot of things, so I don't want to. So this is a piece I did this year during the pandemic. I was invited by the Museo de Arte Moderno to create a piece for the newspaper, and they were going to then make an exhibition with this. You can see it here. And so I was getting a lot of information in my dreams. I have a lot of dreams and I write. Actually, the dream that told me to move to Miami, the reason why I moved to Miami was a dream. So I made this piece and I'm here combining a lot of elements that are very important for me, like the spheres of knowledge and the idea of the church as this totem that we've been abiding to, but also we are abiding by the towers of the oil, exploitation of the earth. So I'm very much questioning a lot what is my position right now in the world and what can I do and what can I bring as a human being to serve better, not just as an artist, because I think being an artist is such an incredible privilege. And because I have that privilege, I would like to even go further and communicate what is important for me to the community. Because one of the things that I like to do is to connect, to inspire, and to communicate to everybody that the only revolution is to be oneself. That's my motto this year. I think that if I do a lot of self-inquiry and I do a lot of work inside, I can really benefit the community around me. So that's for now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Monica, for that beautiful presentation. And actually, a lot of the themes that you raised in it remind me of some of the things that I find most interesting about an interval of time. But first, I want us to kind of ground in an interval of time because it is quite literally a work that has a lot of moving parts. And it has all of these elements that comprise it, including but not limited to data from the School of Geosciences, landscape photography, poetry, and these beautiful bright strips of color that move throughout the screen. So I'm wondering, could you tell us a little bit about how you chose each of these elements and how do they relate to each other?
Yeah, well, for me, it's very important to really understand what are the needs of the piece. So because it was geoscience, and at the very beginning of the project, we were going to do it in a globe. So a lot of the images at the very beginning were like round, and I wanted to work with nature, obviously, but I had like a technical limitation. It was that I needed to stitch the images. So a lot of the images that I chose at the very beginning were like images of the elements, whether it was fire, water, mud, there were different things that they were happening. And so I needed to stitch them. And then I wanted to have something else kind of like floating around, because you have the 360 degrees. And so I chose, and that was that was a lot of fun. I chose a lot of poetry that has been written by geoscience, by people who actually relate to the earth. And I just put that, because at this time I was doing the project of the weaving of the text, Italo Calvino. I thought, well, why don't we do the same? So the graphic that we were using for this, I also ended up putting it. And at the time, it was going to be completely different. It was going to be interactive. So in a sense, a lot of these images, they come to me the same way that everything comes, just like non-linear. It's just whatever I need in the moment and I connect to comes to me. And I'm an extremely intuitive person, and I've been developing a whole practice of how to really use this intuition in a way that is practical. So I do a lot of meditation, qigong, like, the whole thing, but I actually really listen to some things. I notice the space, whether it's color or when I do a search on the internet. I have a way of working that if I want something, I just do the right word and things come to me. And then I just gather a lot of information. And then if you see my studio is full of images where I just put them there and I leave them there for a while until they speak to me. And then I start putting them together. So that's what happened with this piece at the very beginning, picking up from NASA. Like I the idea was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the school, but then I thought, well, the internet is like the incredible place. I mean, I call it my uncle Google, because it's just giving me everything. Whatever I need is over there, and if not, I'll get a book. But yeah, a lot of the stuff was coming from the internet.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I know also that there is a connection between your home, like your native Colombia, and the landscape images that you chose for this piece. Could you talk a little bit more about that as well, and how you went about choosing the landscape images for this work?
Oh yeah, well, I used to travel, like, remember before 2020, we're traveling a lot. I right now, but yeah, I used to travel, and then I used to gather a lot of information with my photographic camera, and I work with images in a way almost like a painter work with colors. So I'm always gathering images, and then I have a huge database. So I had been traveling to Colombia from 2011, pretty much a lot. So I will go up to places I haven't been before when I was little, to beautiful lakes up in the Paramo, like in different places, and I will record and record. I also remember I had a show in Norway, which is beautiful. And then I decided to stop in Iceland because it has all this incredible, I think that for a geologist, that's like a feast, to go to Iceland. So I did travel a lot during that period. I went to Colorado, I went to Santa Fe. So that's where all the information is gathered from the very beginning. Everything that we're seeing right now here, it comes from that time before. So I was traveling Colombia, and I wanted to get images that related to me personally, to my upbringing, because Colombia is, we have an incredible landscape. It's really, really beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love the connection, that emotional connection that you have to these landscape images as well, and that being a part of this piece, which I think is so beautiful, and not usually something that we would expect from a work that has to do with data, right? Which we usually perceive as being unemotional and impartial. So I think that's really lovely. And one more thing that I wanted to tease out in this work that I think is one of the most striking things for me, at least visually, is your use of color. Like An Interval of Time has such a beautiful array of colors, like going through it all the time. And it's just really visually striking. And I'm wondering if you speak a little bit more to your choice to use that bold color in your work.
Well, color started developing. I was a little bit color shy because I also was trained as a black and white photographer, and I kind of like allowing the color to emerge through me throughout time. And then I'm going to do a bad joke, but it's true. After I got divorced, I let the color come out. I was no longer feeling constrained about many things, and I just allow it to happen, and it happened. The year after 2015 is like everything becomes colorful, and I had no restriction. And I use color a lot for one reason that is very also conceptual and also philosophical. It's like through color you can find contrast. When you put two colors together that they don't really like the images you're seeing, you can see some things that are popping out. And these things that are always creating contrast are the things that we're supposed to connect to in order to learn something new. So color is not just color because it looks beautiful. Color has a very deep meaning and also has a lot of frequencies. And if you see nature, you know, animals or flowers, they have the use of color depending on many factors. So we're always speaking about color as if it was something that it was devoid from us, but it is very much part of our own sensitivity, you know, the senses, the frequency is there. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's so interesting. And hearing you talk about contrast also reminds me of another thing that I am really interested in regarding an interval of time that you mentioned in your presentation as well, which is the relationship between coding and weaving in your digital practice. That I know you briefly touched on it, but I would love for you to say a little bit more about it, because when you mentioned it, my mind was blown. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that. And also, can you talk about binaries, specifically digital binaries, and how your work approaches them?
Well, binary is like such an important word to talk because we are all in a binary system. We're electromagnetic beings. We have gravity because we have two poles that are like binding us to this electromagnetic field, and we are inside made out of that. Every single element in nature is bipolar. And so it's very important to understand that these two sides are always communicating. And if we understand this not only from a physical part, but also intellectual and philosophical, we will really understand really the way nature evolves, because it's through contrast. It's through the relationship that you actually can see things differently. So for me, the binary from the weaver that creates a form and then defines something, the technology defines a form. It's also related to the binary numbers that we use in the computer. So you and me and everybody, all these 52 people that are connected can see us. So it's never outside of ourselves. The binary, we have two eyes, we have two lungs, we have a lot of things that's in twos, and they have a meaning. So for me, it's very important to understand that everything has a meaning. Words have meaning, ideas have meaning, emotions have meaning, everything has a meaning. So it's always trying to understand what is it that is meaning to me in this specific moment, where I will find if I create a contrast with something or I create a relationship to the other. So it's you know, I know I'm going like a little bit philosophical, but
no. I think that's so interesting though, because this question of contrast that you're teasing out also is the question of the relationship between weaving, which is this practice that is non-digital, and coding, which is a digital practice. And usually I think in the way in which we think about those things, they're diametrically opposed to each other. But in fact, what you're saying with your work is that they stem from a similar binary practice.
But it depends, because if you define materiality as that you can see and touch, but then there's, if you go atomically, you are not really seeing things, but you can, you know, it's like if you go to the quantum, there's always, you know, there's this word about the fabric of reality. What is the fabric of reality and the fabric of the weaving? You know, we are here in this reality and we're trying to understand what it is. The scientist goes and tries to make experiments and has a lot of observation to understand things. I consider myself in my work very scientific because I do the same kind of things. I do a lot of observation and I do a lot of experiments and I try a lot of different materials, and I'm not afraid of going further and trying something new, because it is in the trying that I always find happy accidents, and those accidents or that contrast is always allowing me to create a space for something new to emerge. So for instance, here, you know, the difference between a grain and a pixel, the material, immaterial, virtual and real, is just a position where you are. It's a state of being, because the virtual and non-virtual, it's very difficult to just define it materially. You know, if you see an atom, part of like 70% of the atom is nothing. There's nothing there, but there is something. That's the dark matter, and we're just like so attached to the physical part of it, which is beautiful, but it is not it. So I'm interested in how to relate those, the things that you see or the things that you perceive with the things that you feel and the things that you can grasp. And they're all important. They're neither or. They're neither or.
I think that's so interesting. And it also brings me to another question that I had about geology, which is one of the main disciplines that inspires this work. And I know you touched on this on your presentation as well, but did thinking about geology also make you think about human impact on the natural environment?
Yeah, I think I will have to say that it's more, I mean, when you separate things and you categorize, you're always creating a problem because you're putting yourself outside of the problem. So in order to really understand what's going on, you really have to embrace yourself within. You cannot say, oh, science is there and the earth is there and I'm a human being. That's the problem. That's what we've been creating for a long time. We have to see ourselves as part of it. The ancestors always saw the man in the middle as part, like the Chinese see the sky, the earth that bears us, and then we're in the middle. We're supposed to create some sort of coherence with it and not be like overpowering the resources just because we have a mind. But every single element of earth has a mind. It has a consciousness, which is different. We have a thinking mind, but a rock has the consciousness enough to be able to hold itself as a rock. Or the river has the consciousness enough to hold itself as a river and go flow down with gravity back to the sea. So it is very important to understand that we have to respect that. And if we understand who we are and we do that work ourselves, then we can actually create small ripples in our families, in our neighborhood, with the guy at the deli, with the person at the Uber, like you and me. And then those ripples are really going to create a more cohesive, more coherent, more open and society that right now we're at the verge. This 2020 is amazing. It has created the most amazing opportunity for human beings to stop, observe, and then see where we're going to go from here.
I think that's so interesting as well. And I think one of my favorite parts of this work as well is the invitation for me to think about exactly what you were saying, think against these logics of extraction and of using the earth as raw material that have contributed to things like climate change and just led to these really negative impacts. And I know for me, as a viewer and as somebody who has engaged with this work really closely, that has been one of the things that has inspired me. And I know you think a lot about how your audience reflects and engages with this work. So I'm also interested in how personal reflection and meditation from your audience has a role in an interval of time as a form of audience engagement.
Well, I always start from the fact that we're all conditioned in very different ways and we all have different levels of relationship with that kind of awareness. So I cannot be like dogmatic and say the work starts here and ends here. The only thing I can do when I create stuff is that I can create enough layers so there's always going to be something that is going to be speaking to you, whether it's the color, the shape, or something. So I am always interested in fulfilling all the gamma. I always say that I have like the vision of an eagle. I'm able to see the whole, but I'm also very good at the very detail. So I always can see like this is going to happen there, and then I can really focus on the little details. So I'm very interested in creating a way, an experience, an environment. So whoever comes, it doesn't matter. They don't have to know what the project is about. It will connect, whether it's a color or a movement or something that is going to be inspiring them. I love the word inspiration because it comes from being together in spirit. When you reconnect to your own spirit, that's it. You don't need anything else. You don't need any like manual because you just have to listen to it. And if you listen to your spirit, you become accountable, and then you don't have to tell other people what to do. You stop policing. So this kind of responsibility has to come from the self. And I'm a big like advocate of that. I speak a lot on the social media about stuff of this sort because I think we have to come into those terms, not by telling the other what to do, but really going inside and seeing what is it that is creating contrast in me so I can actually go in and try to transform that. And I see that that's the, I mean, I'm an optimist, but I see that could possibly happen. So my colors and my invitation is just, if I can do it and many people can do it, why don't you try? That's my invitation.
Wonderful. Yeah, I have one last question, and I think you summed it up really well in the way in which you're talking about all the ways in which our lives have changed, specifically in the last year, but also I can't even imagine in the decade since this work was first commissioned. What are some parts of the original concept of the work that have remained the same, and what has changed?
I think one thing that really stayed all along, even though the form doesn't look like, is the circular part. This piece is made as a cycle. And today I was joking, I said, don't tell anybody how long it is, because that will create an anxiety, that will create an expectation. I don't want people to know if it's 100 hours or 2 minutes, because one of the things that I do with my work is I want to mesmerize people. Why do I want to mesmerize? Because when I mesmerize the audience, I allow and I give space to the audience to go somewhere else, somewhere deep, somewhere in. So that's what I want to do. So I created this idea of this piece going like that, as if it was in the sphere. And the thing that stayed, but it's not as a globe, it's speaking all the time, because you see the globe going over and over all around, and it's going in a direction that is very beautiful. So it is cycling and it is showing. And what I did was like a little bit like that piece that I spoke about before. Like I took what I thought it was very proper to bring forth, and I created something new with who I am right now. So I did not discard anything. I just basically included more toys and more colors and more things that I've been working with in the last 10 years. I sort of that, yeah, it's like we grew 10 years. So why don't we just use everything and every element and every piece of language that I have acquired in the last 10 years.
And I'm very grateful for that synthesis. It's really a beautiful work, and I'm very happy to have it on campus.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, with that, I think we'll move into the Q&A from the audience. So let me take a look here. But one question that we have from Jeremy Simon is, have you been able to answer some or all of your philosophical questions through your work?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, I think that I was born with always asking why. What am I doing here? What's the purpose of this? How do I play this game? Is this something that it has like a prize at the very end? And then I realized through the work that it is not about creating an expectation about the future, about how much information or knowledge I'm going to have. Is about how I'm going to really relate to that, meaning in experience. How am I going to embody that experience in a day-to-day? So for me, the most important thing is, am I embodying it right now? Am I making sense right now? Am I being coherent in the now? That's the only thing that I project, is the now.
I think that also feeds into another question that we have from the audience, which is, can you speak to how you see the emotional and aesthetic and intuitive in your work and how that meshes together?
Yeah, it's very important to understand that there are very different parts. The intuition is something that a lot of people, they think is woo, but it is something that you actually train, because it's another realm of information. It's like love could be intuition, like faith could be. It's something that is not material, and people tend not to give a lot of importance to that, because there was a moment that somebody said that I think therefore I am, discard. So it was like, it was great for that time being, but then it just limits so much all the other realms, also the emotional. And I grew up as I always been very emotional being. So I remember I always had teachers and people like trying to understand what's going on. And I used to say, like, they say, what can I do for you? And I said, I want to stop having emotions. And then look at me and said, like, well, that's not going to happen. I can teach you how to work with the emotions. So that's what I've been doing in the last 20 years, is learning how to use them as language. Also the language, intuition has a sort of language. So it's really listening to my body. I listen a lot to my body. I embody when I have a deep, like if I have fear, I sit down and I am with it. If I am angry at something, I just don't, I am really concentrating on understanding them as language. And so yeah, so it's a question of training, understanding what it is, and some people are more intuitive than others because they have that capability. Some people are more emotional. Not everybody has the same emotional body. Not everybody has the same intuitive. Some people are more rational. They have more left brain than right brain. I'm like 3/4 right, so I have my own linearity, everything, but I can be focused. The little bit of left brain that I have that is very logical is just like one corner. So I understand both, but I tend to be on the right all the time because it's more like the ADD world that I love, just like that.
I love hearing you talk about this emotional relationship that you cultivate through your work and through your artistic practice as well, and using emotion as a language, because I think it also relates to the fabulous intro that Dean Mora gave about just the beauty of geosciences and also being moved by the sciences as well, and an element of love and emotion that goes into that I, as a humanities person, sometimes don't get to see or experience in the sciences. So I just wanted to flag that as something that I think is really interesting about our conversation today and in your work as well.
Yeah, it's also, I want to add that there's a lot of poetry illegible, but I can give a list of the poetry that it's all enmeshed there, because there's a lot of poetry written for and by geologists. So all it's an ode to the earth by not only by me, but people who are really connected to it. So there's a lot of lyrical language and a lot of poetry, because poetry, it's the way we connect to beauty. It's just how we assign a value of beauty and recognition. For me, beauty is like you recognize something in the other that is giving you a frequency where you feel connected to. That for me is beauty.
That's great. And having the list of the geological poets in that, I think, would be great for the Landmarks education team as well.
Yes.
In line with this conversation, we also have a really great question. Do you have a daily spiritual practice, like meditation or something different? So like, what are the day-to-day things that you try to implement?
Well, I started meditating over 20 years ago, and I have meditated every single day since. I started like being very disciplined with a book, like 1 minute, 1 hour, whatever. But it became a habit, because when you practice, when you do a practice enough time, that becomes a habit. You change your destiny. So yes, I have a practice. I've done a lot of qigong, and I've done a lot of studies with the Taoist teacher, and I do a lot of dancing. I also try to embody a lot, understanding how I am in the body. So I like to dance, I like to sing. I do a lot of chanting also, because it's like the void. Like today before this, I did a whole chanting thing, because I'm going to be speaking. So I want whatever comes from me to come from the source, and not come from my mind, but come from the real source of the universe. So I do a lot of, I spend a lot of time doing that. And lately, what I do is not just in the morning, but I do little breaks of meditation, 5 minutes here and there. And I really think that the most important thing right now is not to sit down and do yoga and then, go to the office and become a monster. It's how you embody that every day, all the time. That's the challenge.
I think the question of embodiment now is something that we can all relate to, and some of those practices of dancing, of chanting, of singing are things that are very much so welcome in our disembodied online lives in quarantine. So I think that's great. Yeah. I have another question here that asks, you have referenced artistic evolution on your work in the last 10 to 15 years. Are there ideas and/or frontiers you would like to tackle in the next 10?
Ooh, I don't even know where we're going to be in the next 3 months. So I have an overall idea of like wherever I'm going to be, I'm going to be in the right place at that moment. So I do not project. I have quite a difficulty projecting into the future, because I really live in the now, and I am so happy here now. I'm living like almost in a state of grace. Every day is like, yeah, I love my life, and I'm just doing so many projects that are really giving me so much freedom and so much happiness. So I don't know, but I know for sure, for instance, that I would like to work more with community, for sure, and I'm training myself right now. So I'm taking a lot of Jungian classes, and I'm taking a lot of classes online, because I'm actually learning the language of speaking that I learned when I was little. So I've done a lot of research on nonviolent communication and deep listening, because I think I want to take all this into more community based, where I can really be out there inspiring people to go in and to be creative, because being creative is not just artistic. Everybody has creativity. So it could be writing, or be creating a blog, or just having anything. You know, a scientist is actually creative, because in the moment that he's observing and is getting data, it's creating some sort of connection with that knowledge, and that is creativity in itself.
That's great. And that actually ties to another question in the chat. I'm very grateful to the audience for all of these wonderful questions. It asked, you had mentioned all the languages you felt you needed to learn and did. At some point, did you realize that art was a language and that you could actually communicate with everyone?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's like I was trying so like fixed to learn this language and the other one, and I did not study art. So I studied other forms of graphic design and fashion design and photography. And then when I moved to New York, I was in my 30s. I was like, forget it, I'm not going to go back to school. And I started observing art from the observant point of view, and I learned the language just trying, experiment after experiment. So yes, I have, and this is what happened throughout that time. For 26 years, I have developed my own language. So my art has become my own language, and I'm very eager to keep on producing more openings, so my language starts, being created in, like, it gets more consciousness to it and expands. But yes, I'm aware of it right now. It took a while.
We have also a poetic question that I think also relates to language that is very interesting. And it is, how would you interpret Matisse saying, if I put green, it is not grass. When I put in blue, it is not the sky.
Oh, beautiful. Matisse. I love Matisse. Because he was able to actually deduct, like, go from the figure to the abstraction and stay with the color. And so color has frequency. And then again, the brain is always trying to look for a definition to understand what it's looking at or what it's listening to, because the senses sometimes. So for me, it's more about feeling and sensing than understanding. It's the last thing that I do is my brain. It's not that I don't think, but I don't make decisions with my brain. So it's all about the senses. So I would say, Matisse there is talking about the colors as the sense, something that you sense and you feel beyond the fact that they have a definition. So that's how I relate to color.
Wonderful. And with that, we have one final question. Again, I'm very grateful for everybody who submitted their questions. They're great. The last question that we have for today is, I sense such a healing quality in your work. Do you have a relationship to the divine feminine in yourself and the universal divine feminine? And I think this question also relates to one of the things that I find really interesting, which is the question of ecofeminism as well.
Okay. Interesting is because I don't define myself and divide myself because of my gender. I really respect people with gender roles and stuff like that, but I come from a family where we didn't have a male figure because every single man in my line died. So we're a matriarchy. And all I longed in my life was to have my daddy, and he died. So I relate to femininity in a very different way because I overdeveloped my young side. And it's only until now that I'm starting to embrace my feminine side. So I have a completely different connection to the idea of feminism. I do not relate. I relate to it in a very abstract way when I say, yes, we need to have a right, but then it doesn't make sense to me because in my experience, I did not experience that. I always had opportunity. I always did what I wanted. I was always supported. I always had a voice. And I turn around and I go, oh yeah, of course. But so I feel and understand people's experience, but in my experience, in my embodiment, it's a completely different thing. So the divine feminine, we all have that. Carl Jung used the word anima and animus. It is a male has to embrace his feminine side in order to integrate both sides. And a female has to integrate the masculine. So it is about that integrity that I'm concerned and I'm more focused. It's not about dividing anymore. It's really about, so yeah, I chose to be a woman this time. All right, let's deal with that. But I also, as a woman, decided not to have children. So that made, those decisions made me use my creative energy completely different. So I think we cannot generalize. I am so not with generalization, categorization. I'm like, let's talk about individual issues. Let's talk about you, let's talk about me. So I'm open to those kind of conversations in a very independent. So yes, everybody has to embody and integrate their own thing depending on their condition, because everybody grew up under different circumstances.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think with that, we're exactly at time. Thank you so much for this conversation, Monica. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I think I did well.
Thank you so much, Monica and Alexandra. We really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. An interval of time can be viewed inside the Jackson School of Geosciences, which is located at 23 San Jacinto Boulevard at UT. We've shared the location and visiting hours in the chat. You can also preview the animation online via the link in the chat. Please feel free to watch our acknowledgement slides in case you missed them before. Thank you very much for joining us and have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.
So Monica and Alex are going to kick off our conversation in a minute. But first, I'd like to acknowledge that we're really only able to have this event and all the work that we do because of the support of many, many dedicated individuals, as well as agencies and foundations who support our work. These include the very generous support of the Stillwater Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Texas Commission on the Arts. So we thank them very much for their support. Thanks are also due to our team members who made this project possible, beginning with our terrific partners at the Jackson School of Geosciences, Dean Claudia Mora, former Dean Sharon Mosier, and Assistant Dean Nicole Evans in particular. Also the Landmarks team, Nisa Barger especially, who oversaw the realization of this project over the past decade, our technology manager, Bill Haddad, and Kathleen Stimpert, Christine Gwillem, Stephanie Sandoval, and Andre Keene, who are all working behind the scenes in order to make this event happen. So, of course, we're going to thank Monica Bravo. You've brought an incredible work of art to the center of our activity on campus, and it's really just been an honor and a pleasure working with you these past years, getting to know you. Thank you again for your patience, for bringing your creative vision to our community, and also for joining us here today. And to close, thank you again, Dean Mora. Your leadership really brought this project home, and we thank you for guiding the project. We look forward to your thoughts and to your introductions too. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm Claudia Mora. I'm Dean of the Jackson School of Geosciences. I wanted to tell a little story about when the Landmark teams approached me about placing the installation and interval of time in the geoscience building. I wondered at first how the art might be received by the geoscientists working daily in the building. But then I realized that geology is the most visual of the natural sciences, and each of us was drawn into the science by some moment of awe and wonder at a stunning landscape, or the folding and stretching of rocks exposed in the canyon wall, the perfection of crystal symmetry, or maybe the discovery of a fossil that had been held secret for millions of years. Geologists not only observe, but we visualize the dynamic Earth. We stand on a volcanic crater and can see tuff blanketing the landscape, but we visualize the violent explosion, the boiling pyrocumulus ash cloud, the welding of ash still flowing as it turns to solid rock. We hike up rugged mountains, but we visualize the slow roll of convecting magma, of tectonic plates thrusting up below, atop, or alongside each other. Our minds must sweep through orders of magnitude of space and time, connecting disparate objects and observations, melding seismic wave reflections and matchstick slivers of earth brought up in drill core to visualize rocks built across landscapes and millions of years, buried, faulted, and now thousands of feet below the surface. Like the art we are here to celebrate, geologists visualize object and process, moving freely between time, rates, and place and scale. So really, how will this art be viewed by a bunch of geologists? I firmly believe we will see and almost uniquely appreciate it. So we are very thankful for the creativity of the artist and the work of the Landmark teams to install this in our building. And now I'd like to introduce the bios of the artist and our host today. Monica Bravo, the artist, was born in Bogota, Colombia, and is a multidisciplinary artist who currently resides in Miami. Her work ranges from moving images and interactive animations to photo-based objects and immersive sculptural environments. Bravo has exhibited her work internationally, including at the Rubin Museum of Art, the 56th Venice Biennale, representing the Vatican City State at the Pavilion of the Holy See, the New Museum in New York, Museo Nacional Centro de Arte Reina Sofía, Museo de Arte del Banco de la República, and the Museo de Arte Moderno de Bogotá. She was recently awarded the Civitella Ranieri Visual Arts Fellowship a prestigious residency program for international writers, composers, and visual artists. Hosting the discussion today is Alexandra Mendez. Alexandra is a MA candidate in Latin American art history and visual studies. Her research focuses on Cuban photography in the 1990s, during the time known as the special period in times of peace, looking at the work of Juan Carlos Salom in dialogue with the changing landscape of the city of Havana as the city changed to accommodate an international touristic market. She is also completing a research project in collaboration with the Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Puerto Rico on artistic production in the island as a response to the political and environmental catastrophe following Hurricane Maria. She has interned with Landmarks, the Blanton Museum of Art, and won a Fulbright scholarship in 2017 to teach in Asturias, Spain. So now I'm going